So as part of this session, we are going to talk about electronic data interchange. This is all about how the electronic data is coming in and going out, whether it is the insurance company, whether it is the hospital, whether it is the physician office, any state reporting agency, any part of the healthcare. That's what we are going to talk about, and how the electronic data is getting transformed from one side to the another side. That's what it comes down to.
Hello.
Now, moving on, as part of this session, we are going to cover history of electronic data interchange. We will also talk about what is Axtel transaction set, and then we will talk about HL7, which is hierarchical level 7. That's what level 7 is all about. But we'll study in detail to understand what exactly it is and where exactly this is getting used. Now, starting up with the electronic data interchange. So first let's understand the definition of it. What exactly the definition is. As it states, electronic data interchange, EDI, sometimes it is also referred as electronic gateway, always remember that, is a set of standards for structuring information to be electronically exchanged between and within businesses, organizations, government entities and other groups. I'll simplify this for you by giving you a different example. Let's assume when you go to the bank, what happens? When you go to the Bank of America, whether you go to the TD Bank, whether you go to the PNC Bank, XYZ, any bank you go, and you are trying to open a bank account, what happens? They give you a form which you need to fill out. Every form will have their own bank logo on it, but does not necessarily mean they are asking you a different piece of information. All the forms will require you to fill out the similar type of information, which is your first name, last name, zip code, address, all your demographics, social security number, all sets of information, which are going to be common among all the forms which are given to you from the different banks. That means the finance industry who is governing that financial business require them to have certain level of standards. Similarly, in the healthcare sector also, if there is a data exchange, if physician office is submitting the claim to the insurance company or whether hospital is submitting the claim to the insurance company, no matter who is submitting the claim information to the insurance company, they must follow certain guidelines to be in compliant with the HIPAA regulation, that is the HIPAA EDI regulation. That's what all this about. So that's why there is a certain norm, certain procedures, protocols in place which needs to be followed, making sure all the electronic transactions are followed by the industry users, which are your physician, hospitals, nurses, anyone, and they all abide by those rules and regulations. That's what EDI is all about. Now, this is what the history is. It all started sometime back in 1968 when the first EDI standard was discovered. Then we moved on to ANSI Character Committed in 1978, and then we moved on to 1983. So, talking about the history, as I said, it started with 1968 when the first standard was developed. Then we did some enhancement and advancement in 1978. Then we moved on to 1983. Then 1988 we had very robust EDI transaction in place. Now the biggest question over here is, do you need to memorize this? The answer to that question is no. Do you need to pay a lot of attention on this? The answer is no. This is just to give you the background, how it all started. Always more information is good, less information is very bad. So this is your one of the thing where you are getting the more information. Always remember that. So talking about, coming back to the history side of it, you may not necessarily going to get the question from the interview point of view. So do not kill your time just spending and reading about the history of EDI again and again. I will let you know very much where exactly you need to spend time on and what are the topics you have to focus on from the interview perspective to make sure that you have a job if you know that. Now, before we start talking about the transaction set, how that looks, what is loop and what is segment, all those things, how the HIPAA transaction looks like, it's very much important for you to first understand how to read the data. As you see here, the entire 5010 transaction, when we get to that, you will see that is divided into loop, segment and the data element. So the highest level of hierarchy is considered, is called as loop. This may not make any sense to you at this point of time, but just try to remember that you studied something. May not necessarily you understood this at this point of time, but when we will relate with the example, you will understand this. So the highest level of hierarchy what you have is a loop. Then it gets broken down to data segment, and then each data segment gets further broken down into your data elements. Now I'll give you an example. Let's think about, we are talking about subscriber information. Now subscriber information is one area in the file where you will have all the subscriber information. So the top level is your loop. Then under that you can have the subscriber demographics, subscriber ID, and then you could have something related to your unique identifier, which could be your social security number. Same can be done for the provider also. Then what is your data element? The data element is, for example, let's see, your name, address. Under subscriber you could have a first name and last name. That means that smallest unit of information is your data element. I completely understand right now you are lost, and I expect that to be like that, because when you will see the file you will understand how it is. So let's keep it in a high level that each transaction set is divided into loop. Loop further gets broken down to multiple data segments. Each data segment gets further broken down into data elements. We'll talk about it, how that is. Now, electronic transaction in healthcare. There are many transactions. So overall, there are 7 to 8 transactions which are majorly used in the healthcare industry. Let's start it with the 834. As it said, this is the name of the transaction. Benefit, enrollment and maintenance. Just remember, this slide is very important for you and you have to remember this. You have to memorize this. You have to expand your study time on this slide because this is very important. 834. So you have a benefit, enrollment and maintenance. So anytime there is a transaction related to benefit and the enrollment information, that what is the level of coverage a member have or a subscriber have, that data will travel from one end to another end in the form of 834 file. So that transaction name is 834. This all transaction will get elaborated in very detail. So this is just on a high level, but from here the important topic starts and you need to understand that. Then you have the 837 transaction set. Now 837, it's all about claim, and you know the claim is also considered an encounter. Now there are different type of files like 837I, 837P and 837D. When you have a dental claim, the claim information will be submitted in the form of 837D. Whereas if you have institutional claims, hospital claims, that is going to get submitted by the hospital, by the institutions in the form of 837I. Towards the end, if you have a professional claim, general physician, they are submitting the claim specialist, they are going to make use of a form to submit the claim information in the form of 837P. P stands for professional, I stands for institutional, and D stands for dental. So 837I, 837P and 837D. These are the segments, these are the different set of files you have in 837. So depending upon who is the submitter, that kind of a 837 file will be submitted. Then you have 835. Always remember, I'll simplify the way how you need to remember. Your 837 and 835 is hand in hand. What it means, if you have a claim, there will be a payment. But it is not necessarily if you have a claim, your payment is going to be in electronic format only. There are payments which goes out in check also, in paper format. So if the payment goes out in check, you may not necessarily have 835. But that's not the only fact. The fact over here is, some providers prefer to have electronic payment detail as well. And 835 is nothing but kind of a control and balance for all the claims which are being submitted for the processing. So 835 gives the information that how many claims are submitted, what's the payment done for each of the claim or the claim lines, and how the payment is being made. The payment is being made by the check, then the check number will be there. If the payment is done by the electronic fund transfer, then it is going to give you the electronic fund transfer details as part of the 835. So this is all about payment and remittance advice. Remittance means how the payment was done with the reason. If there is a reduction in the payment, it will have the reason why the payment is reduced. If the payment is rejected, the claim is denied, it will have a reason why the claim is denied. So it is what the all 835 is all about. Then you have added 811, which is premium billing. Now try to remember, your 811 and 820 goes hand in hand. And why do I say that? Just look at the briefing. This says premium billing and this says premium payment. That means if someone is requesting, if someone is sending you the bill, what you do? You make the payment. So if the insurance company is generating an invoice, let's say Walmart is the organization who have 500 employees covered. So for 500 employees, insurance company is going to generate an invoice and send it. In what format they will send? They will send in the form of 811. Now the payment needs to come back. Now the payment needs to come back. The premium payment is coming. The premium will come in the form of 820. So now the employer is sending out the payment to the insurance company in the form of 820. So these are the standards which they need to follow. Then you have 270 and 271. Again, this 70 and 71 kind of a request and response. How you have 11 and 20. 270 is the eligibility inquiry and 71 is the response. So what happens if you go to the physician office, they take all your necessary information over the phone and then they send out to the insurance company how they are inquiring what eligibility you have about the particular service with the help of 270 transaction. And then the insurance company will reply back with the eligibility information that okay, this is the person, this is what the coverage is, XYZ, in the form of 271. Then you have 276 and 277. Now again, this is a request and response. So the physician, hospital, any provider have submitted the claim, sent the claim, and they are requesting the information that, hey, I submitted 5 claims. I need to know the status of that. So when they are requesting, they will generate the 276 transaction. When they will get a response from the insurance company, from the payer, they will get the 277. That is what the transaction set is all about. Saying that, okay, the number 1 claim is rejected, number 2 is paid, partially paid, whatever it is. That's what 76 and 77 is all about. Now, then you have 275, patient information. Patient information is all the clinical chart that, okay, what kind of a treatment is given to the patient, what physician office have prepared, what hospital, what kind of a treatment the physician office is sending out to the hospital. So this is all about patient information that, okay, the patient is a diabetic patient, this is on the treatment from XYZ, These are the medications the patient is already these are the medications patient have already taken or taking. That is your 275. Then towards the end you have 278. 278 is healthcare service review. Let's assume that someone is in the hospital and seeking some kind of a medical attention. Now before the service could be provided, I am not saying in the case of emergency, but there are cases where the hospital, before providing the services, they need to have a consultation and the approval from the insurance company, whether this service is eligible to be provided on this particular patient or not. In that case, they will send out the 278 for review. That okay, this is what the details are, just look at it and tell us whether this is something we can perform the surgery or something like that. That is your healthcare service review. These are all the transactions which you have, which are very aggressively used from the payer pays. And you have to have a good knowledge about each of the transactions. Not necessarily you need to know A to Z about all the transactions, but bear in mind you need to understand that what exactly each transaction does. And that will be your nailing point when you go for an interview. If you are able to talk about all these transactions, I assure you 100% you will have a better luck on that. Now let's move on and understand each of them in detail, what they cover. This is exactly how your provider payer architecture looks like. So as you see here, this is your payer world. From this box you have a payer world, and on top you have a submitter. Submitter, you have a clearinghouse, you have any small agencies, subsidiaries, health exchanges, providers, everything. Now what are these blue lines? As you see, there are some which are both directional and there are some which are one directional, because the payment will always go out from the payer to the outside agencies, and the acknowledgement is also required. The acknowledgement, the control and balance will be done. Now here you need to understand, see, you have eligibility which goes both way, where you have the inbound as well as the outbound file. You have enrollment which is also inbound as well as outbound. Then you have a claims which is again inbound and the outbound, and then you have a payments which is inbound and the outbound. Now these are all the different kind of transactions. Now you see here you have eligibility system, membership, claim adjudication, billing, payment, and these are all the transactions. So the payer side you are utilizing all the transactions. May not be you are using all the transactions for the same external body, but you have different agencies which are participating in the overall communication, inbound as well as outbound. So this is how your architecture look like. If you see the very, I would say 500 feet high picture, if you need to see, this is how your system will look like.